I'm here to help women reset and rewild, to embrace and prioritize the pauses in order to reclaim their peace and power. I'm Dr. Michelle Paris, director of the Poppy Clinic and founder and CEO of the Wild Collective. As a disruptor, naturopathic doctor, wife, and mama, I've created a global movement and sacred space for women to rise together. Here, you'll break through limitations, romanticize your life, and unlock the magic of your divine feminine power. My life's work is rooted in community, lifting women into their most powerful, authentic selves, while empowering clinicians to elevate their practices with a transformational, community-driven model. I lead a thriving, passion-fueled business and naturopathic practice brimming with abundance, where I can guide women to invigorate their lives through sisterhood and elevate healthcare with a cutting-edge transformational approach. I've witnessed firsthand in my practice how this model sparks consistent health transformation, creates flourishing communities, and brings profitable success. You can have it all, a life filled with abundance, contagious joy, and untethered potential. So pull up a seat. It's time to pour into yourself and tap into your intuition and design a life that's wild, free, and uniquely yours. And I'm going to show you how. This is Wild Medicine.
Hello and welcome back to the Wild Medicine podcast. I am so excited because today we are welcoming a very special guest to the podcast. We are welcoming Emily. If you have ever been to the clinic, if you've ever called or emailed the clinic, you know Emily. Emily is our wonderful patient care coordinator, but you might not know the other work that Emily does, and that is what we are here to talk about today. So I'll give an introduction, but welcome, Emily, to the podcast. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Tara. I'm happy to be here as well.
Okay, well, let me tell you a little bit about Emily's energy work, and then we will dive into all of the things. So Emily is an intuitive, trauma-informed practitioner who works with how stress and emotional patterns are held in the body. She supports women who feel stuck in patterns like emotional eating, constant pressure, over-responsibility, or difficulty fully relaxing, even when life seems fine. Rather than focusing on surface symptoms, Emily helps uncover what the body has learned over time and gently supports it in releasing patterns that are no longer needed. Her work integrates somatic, which is body-based awareness, intuitive insight, and energy-based techniques, including Reiki, healing touch, and IFS-informed parts work. Sessions are personalized and guided by what feels safe and supportive for each individual, creating space for deeper change, greater ease, and a stronger sense of connection to self. We are so lucky to have Emily here with us today. So, Emily, my first question for you is, how did you get into energy work?
Okay. Well, my interest in energy healing really came about with my own experience, my own life experience, which started at a very young age and throughout life just continued with loss, with stress, with having to rebuild emotional survival, taking on other people's stuff. So really from a young age and lots of, I don't really like to use the word trauma, but most people recognize that. So just traumatic experiences. And we know that that is how you perceive it, not necessarily how someone else would perceive it. But when I say started very young, it started as a baby. Many people don't know, but I was an identical twin, and my twin died at 4 months old. And although I was too young to comprehend what was happening or to even have the words to articulate, because I didn't speak, my body felt it. As a matter of fact, my parents were very concerned that I was going to pass away as well, because I lied there stillness, they said, for days. I'm sure it was probably not days, but for them it felt like days. So it really started from there and then continued on. So obviously if you're in a family that's had all that loss, but never mind about that loss at that particular moment, a lot of inherited loss, their own life loss rather. Both my parents lost their parents at a very young age, or one of their parents. So, that they bring their loss into it. My own experience loss at 4 months old. And then just going on with, living in a household where, my parents' trauma obviously were brought into. They did the best they could with what happened to them, but everybody copes with it in a different way. I had one parent that coped with it with alcohol, which was able to suppress that pain. I had another parent who was OCD, that person being busy all the time and very structured kept them from having to feel all that loss and grief. So anyway, you fast forward, I've had very many failed relationships, so on and so forth, which really made me take a look at me, right? Because I was the common denominator. So really led me to have more awareness of what was going on around me, plus with life experiences. So I had gone through a divorce. My children, 2 divorces actually at the time. My children were older and on their own, so I was all alone. So I was forced to look inside. And the first book I read was The Monk That Sold His Ferrari by
I love that book.
Robin Sharman. And really
Yeah.
that was my first glimpse into like internal, right? An awareness of just looking at like a rose and how it unfolds. I'm looking at every day and seeing different aspects of it. So really that's what led it to me. And then of course I got more curious and was like, oh, what else is out there? And that led me to Reiki because it was more well known at the time than some of the other modalities now. So I did my first course in Reiki. And of course, when I did the course, it was like, what the heck are they talking about? Because I was trying to come from the head space, not the body or awareness, right? So really that's how it was my own experience and my own traumas, my own life experiences that brought me to energy healing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I know too that when you first started with animal healing, so what brought you to animal healing and then what made that transition to working more with humans?
Yes. Well, simple question. It was easier. And what do I mean by that? Is that there was no judgment by the animal, right? So I was able to do my work, saw that they were more relaxed after the session, then getting feedback from the owners, but there was no there was no real feedback. It just allowed me to be open and do my work without having any disruption. So I started with animal healing. Thank you, God. That was such a long time ago that I had actually not even remembered that. But to this day, I don't do as much animal healing as I did before. Love it. Like I said, they're unconditional love beings, and it's such a pleasure to work on them. And then when I get feedback from their owners, I mean, that's even, the icing on the cake kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's, so interesting, right? They are so pure and they can't have that doubt or skepticism or whatever it is that people will naturally have a little bit of, especially when trying something new.
Exactly. And because, a lot of us are so much in the head and scientific based, we want proof, right? Sometimes it's the feeling is the proof. How do you feel afterwards?
Yeah.
What are some of the changes that happen in your life after?
Yeah.
But we as humans seem to always want proof of something. And sometimes there is no proof, right?
Yeah.
So we're the animals. There is none of that.
Yeah. So interesting. What sort of concerns did you help with when it came to animal healing?
Mainly anxiety was a big one, and pain. Also changes when I did a lot of volunteer work for animal rescues.
Wow.
So a lot of those animals had been through traumatic experiences. And so I worked with that and the animal and the owner as well. Like it's not just the animal on its own because there's greater benefit if you include the owner because the owner is the one that really can make some changes in their environment, right? So you have to look at the whole. Where do they come from? What happened to them? And what environment are they in now? And then working with that. And like I said, working with the owner to help them either feel calmer or release some of that trauma that they're still holding on to, just like us humans do, the animals do as well.
Yeah. Wow. So fascinating. And you mentioned Reiki is sort of where you started with your formal education in the field. And I know that now at this point you've so many certifications, so much experience. So how would you say that your work now is different and similar to Reiki? I think a lot of people have heard of Reiki, So I think people might be interested to know how your work now is similar and also different.
That's a good point, because often when people say, what's energy healing? I'm kind of like, the first thing I say is Reiki, because people, know of it. So Reiki, and I also do healing touch, which is similar, but different techniques. So Reiki and energy healing are very calming, balancing. So it's kind of like body work, but very subtle. It's not like massage therapy, right? It's just really hands gliding, sometimes putting your hands on the client. But I do deeper work than that. So I kind of say that surface stuff. And then, so I incorporate some of my other modalities, which I have so many that I don't even recall them all off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Because when you come for a session, I basically do some intake work. And then from there, I can use and interchange a lot of the modalities. So I do stuff like thought field therapy, also known as TFT, which is similar to tapping, which a lot of people are familiar with, emotional freedom tapping. I do the motion code, theta healing that works on subconscious beliefs, internal family systems, somatic work, nervous system work. I mean, it can just go on and on and on. But I do Reiki very little of the time, even though I mention it. It's because we are energetic beings and everything is energy. So we can manipulate energy and also change energy.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great overview of all of the different modalities. And I think, we've done a lot of sessions together and I've benefited from your work tremendously. And something else that I really wanted to get into, because I think it's helpful for people to hear, is, I think maybe in some ways this sounds a bit like therapy. And how is that different? And I'd love to hear your answer. And I'd love to share a little bit about sort of my perspective on that too. And for me, I love therapy. I see a lot of value in that. And at the same time, I find that I can intellectualize a lot, right? And I can, I know the right answer always in therapy, right? I know where we're going and I often know the right thing to say. And I think that, that doesn't mean that it's not helpful, but I think for me, especially, I felt like it was less in my head and more in my body. And I needed to actually release what I was holding in my body. I remember a while ago, and I have this pain sometimes on my right shoulder. And I had tried so much for it. I had done massage and chiro and acupuncture and all the things. And then we did a session together and I mentioned it and I felt it release during our session. And it was such an interesting experience for me to realize, it was an emotional based pain. Like I was there was tension there because of maybe the way that I was bracing or patterns or whatever it was. And it was so fascinating. I think that, and you mentioned pain, and that's one of the huge benefits, I think, of energy work as well, is allowing ourselves to release so much of what we hold, that tension in the body, through the various techniques that you take your clients through. So, I've benefited so much from your work. That's just one example. There's been, so many connections have been made through working with you. And I'd love to hear your perspective on how you feel that your work, like body-based energy healing, is different from therapy.
Well, I think they're very complementary, to tell you the truth. Therapy can be very valuable and for insight and emotional understanding. At least that's been my experience. However, you mentioned it very eloquently. Energy work works more through the body and emotions and nervous system, right? Because as you said, people logically understand why they feel a certain way, but their body still is reacting from it, from the stress, from the fear, from the grief, from the old conditioning. Right? So we know better intellectually, but our nervous system hasn't caught up to it, right? And it could be as simple as something happened, it was too much, too fast, or it was too little and we didn't receive enough. And so it's the way our nervous system, sometimes that stuff the pattern is inherited from primarily our mothers, because we're in the womb there. Well, whatever your mother is going through. And if she was very stressful during pregnancy because of whatever was going on in her life, well, our nervous system is also developing in the womb. Of course, we're going to inherit some. And that's why I think a lot of times we don't have words, or we don't understand why things are happening to us. There's no, I don't understand. I think you mentioned that. I have a great life. Why do I feel this certain way? Why do these things happen to me? So it happens from a very, very young age, where again, we don't have the words to explain why we feel this certain way, but our body does. Our body holds it. Our cells hold it. So that's why when we do some of the work together, it's bringing awareness to wherever that point is in the body that feels a little tight, or that's calling to you, right? And working with that, because now you're bringing attention, you're feeling that pain or that discomfort instead of trying to run from it. And we can run from it in many different ways, whether it's substances, food, whatever it might be, to actually numb it. Watching TV for like 5, 6, 7 hours just to tune out from what our bodies really want to tell us, or need to tell us, or need us to know. So numbing is a big one, and we use very many different things to achieve that. And a lot of the times we're not even aware we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And of course, Michelle and I talk so much about SHED on the podcast, and you've really supported quite a few SHED patients as well through accessing some of that when it comes to thought patterns around food, or numbing through food, or, something that Michelle and I talk so often about on here is how a lot is revealed. A lot comes up emotionally through the program as coping strategies are forced to change, and there's so many insights that come up. And I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the work that you do in SHED with patients, and how you feel energy work can be such a beautiful complementary as patients move through the program or after the program. And just a bit more about that numbing piece and that food piece and how those things connect.
Thank you, Tara, for that. That is such an important conversation, because weight struggles is often a lot more than food, right?
Yes.
Many people use food for comfort, for emotional regulation, for stress relief, numbness, reward, or even protection. When someone has spent years in survival mode or hypervigilant mode, the body normally or naturally seeks soothing and safety. And the easiest form of that is food, right? And that's why I believe that sustainable weight loss often requires deep emotional work, and also nervous system work, alongside with nutrition or whatever diet plan you're doing. Really, I believe that my work helps people identify those emotional patterns underneath the eating behavior, right? To reduce the shame, to calm the nervous system, to develop safer ways of feeling safe. A lot of it I see is safety. And regulation. I've struggled with weight issues myself my whole life. Now, given knowing my trauma from a very young age, plus I was an identical twin, I felt like I lost part of me. So food was, when I got older, obviously, was a way of feeling that connection again, right? Also, hypervigilance is a big one. Someone who's always on, always scanning, always trying to anticipate the next step or what might happen. That is huge stress, but it's doing this on autopilot because that's the way you've been wired. And food will just bring you that relief, bring you that calmness, and in many cases, create that decompression. I've been on hypervigilance or stress the whole day, and now I'm going to put that food in my mouth, and you don't even realize you're doing it. But what's happening is, as soon as you're eating that food, what does it do? It releases the endorphins, especially if it's, gluten and sweets and all that, those good things, right? That give you that dopamine feeling right away. until you really look at those behaviors or why you're doing a certain thing, it's very hard when you feel like you need to decompress or you de-stress or regulate. Well, a lot of people don't realize is you can use food to regulate the nervous system.
Mm.
It's almost instant. But you do that because it's learned, and it's usually learned behavior from a very young age. When you maybe couldn't rely on a parent or parents, food was the next easiest thing.
Mm.
When you wanted love and, your parents were in their own trauma stories and not able to be there for you, that piece of cake or that cookie sure felt good.
Mm.
Or in my case, ice cream. That's why I don't have it at home. Yeah, so it all serves a purpose. It's not about willpower,
Yeah.
right? And that's why in many cases, diets, unless you have a program that, like the SHED program, where it's like you go through that active phase, the stabilization, the maintenance, and then post maintenance to make sure that, you're still following the regime, we fall off of it.
Mm-hmm.
We fall off of it because it's easy to revert back to our old habits because we haven't fixed the root cause.
Mm.
This episode is brought to you by our SHED Metabolic Reset program. Look, I know there's a lot of programs out there and it can be very overwhelming, especially when it comes to weight loss and long-term fat loss and finding the right program for you. We have an incredible metabolic reset program, one that does thorough investigative work up front, looking at blood work metrics, helping educate you, a really solid, simple plan to follow in the reset phase, as well as long-term education around how to maintain your weight loss for the long term, how to optimize your health, how to increase metabolic flexibility, and how to build your plate so that you are nourished and the strongest version of yourself. Our program includes a lot of care and support with our integrative healthcare team. It is a medically supported program. We include community support, education support, as well as daily mindset calls. We are all about optimizing your health for the long term. This is the exact program that helped me shed 30 pounds and keep it off for 4 years and counting. So if you feel like a reset is something you would like to consider, a pause to help calibrate, come home to yourself, lower inflammation, boost your energy, learn how to confidently build your plate for longevity, then please head over to poppyclinic.com and you will see that there is a pop-up quiz that will get the process started of seeing if SHED Metabolic Reset program could be for you. If it is, we will connect, and I cannot wait to support you in living the most aligned, harmonious life, one that reclaims peace and confidence in your body and teaches you how to eat for long-term health. I'll see you soon.
Yeah. Wow, that was so well said. And, you brought up safety, and I think it is such a big piece of healing, right? Within SHED and healing in general. And I think that we're all, like you said, we're all striving to feel safe. That's the feeling that we're after, right? And for so many of us, we live very dysregulated, right? We live in a very dysregulating world. And so that feeling of safety can feel, I think for a lot of people, they actually don't know what that feels like, what safety actually would feel like in their body. And I'm curious, in your work, how does that manifest? And do you think that that is what people are looking for? I guess what I mean by how does it manifest is, what are some of the typical reasons that people seek out your work?
Well, usually it's something that is reoccurring in their life.
Mm.
Like no matter what I do, I'm always in this situation. Or pain that is unexplained, meaning they've gone to their doctors, they've gone to their chiropractors or whatever other body work, and it's still there, right? So usually those are the kinds of people that I see, or people who have been through really, deep traumatic trauma in their life. And they're really like, I'm sick of living my life this way. I want to start living, right? So those are kind of and then there's some people who just want to come for relaxation, and that's fine too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's either, a Reiki, a healing touch with some sound healing, or some deep work, right? We're going to look at those patterns that have been happening in your life. When did it start? We're going to connect with that part of you that's still stuck back there,
Mm.
or still experiencing that trauma like as if it's happening today, or that person who's completely numb and feels, even though their life is good, is completely numb and say, they feel that they're unable to feel again, or unable to have passion for something again, or
Mm.
are struggling in relationships. So there's a wide variety. But in my experience with this and different clients of different ages, it really boils back down to, what are they avoiding?
Mm.
What do they not want to see in their life? What are they running from? And not in a sense of actually running, but what is it that they're not looking at?
Mm.
Their body gives them the clues of the aches, the pains, the accidents, all to get our attention. But we do everything possible not to.
Mm.
Again, the hours of, watching a TV program. I do it too.
Mhm.
And sometimes you need to escape. You've had a very stressful day,
Yeah.
and the only way to do that is through that. But if you're doing that over and over again, even when things are good in your life, meaning good, like you've got a lot to be grateful for,
Mhm.
then you really have to look at the deeper, what is it that you're trying to avoid? We
Mhm.
spend so much of our lives in avoidance or numbing or desensitized to our bodies.
Mhm.
But a lot of that, here's where it becomes difficult, is because a lot of it is automatic.
Yeah.
We're operating on autopilot because it's happened since a very young age, and we don't know any other way. And it's funny because I can see other people's stuff very clearly. My
Mhm.
own stuff, different story. That's why healers also need healers.
Absolutely.
No different, like therapists need therapists.
Yep.
Financial people need their financial people, so on and so forth. Because this is, I often say, autopilot. We've got that gauge, it's on
Mhm.
autopilot. And unless we really put awareness and focus onto what we're doing and how we're feeling, like, to give an example, first thing we do, many people do when they get out of bed, is check their phones.
Mhm.
Instead of, how about like lying there in bed for a bit, doing some stretches and saying, how do I feel?
Mm.
Do I have any tension anywhere? How does my body feel against the bed? Do I feel well rested or not? And then really starting the day with awareness and slowly and really taking care of our bodies versus rushing right into, emails, the texting, the social media, whatever it is. Again, what are those things? Distractions.
Mhm. And they're very dysregulating, right? And so we
Very.
spend so much time, like if we look at, our waking hours, what percentage of those hours are we spending in a dysregulated state, right? Are we spending connected to our phones and our emails and the pings and the kids and the all, right? Like it's all encompassing often,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Yeah.
It's a huge, we spend the majority of our time. People say sleeping. No, I would beg to differ,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the work that I do, I find it very fascinating, and I'm
Mhm.
always learning.
Yeah.
And I love obviously when I get feedback that says, an hour session made a difference. And sometimes it doesn't have to be this big, revolution.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just subtly of, I feel peace,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
That's a start. I feel peace.
Yeah.
I didn't feel as anxious. I felt more regulated.
Mm.
I didn't feel like I needed to binge or reach out for that
Mhm.
donut, cookie, whatever that is for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But a lot of people think it's one and done. And for some it is. But
Mm.
most people are not, because we are very complex. We have many, many layers. Now, we were talking about animal healing a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
So here's the difference between animals and humans. They have everything just sitting right on the outer layer. We have
Mm.
so many complexities to us.
Right.
And that's why you can do one healing on a pet and it solves everything.
Yeah.
And with humans, it's like, you peel that, it's like an onion. You peel that first layer. Oh, there was something else hiding behind it. Peel the next layer. Oh, here's something else. And we do that from protection
Mm-hmm.
because, it's also a brain thing to protect us. If we were going to feel everything all at once, wow, that would be
Mm-hmm.
so overwhelming and put you back into a different trauma response.
Yeah.
And that's why, we uncover it as the patient or as the client is ready to,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't want to put them into another trauma response or have
Yeah.
them stuck there or sometimes not come back.
Yeah. And I think you're so attuned to your clients. And that is such an art of knowing when is enough for a client, right? And I think that definitely comes with experience.
Well, I think that
Yeah.
you do, sorry for
No,
interrupting
no,
me,
not at all. Go ahead.
interrupting you rather. It's some of the work you do too with your tweens
Mhm.
and your weight loss patients, right?
Mhm.
It's looking at how they're mirroring back to you.
Mhm.
As you're talking, are they, all of a sudden tense?
Yeah.
Are they looking away from you? So it's not just what's going on in your body,
Mhm.
right? The client, it's me observing what's going on. What am I observing from the
Mhm.
client? It's really a two-way
Mhm.
street. Yeah, so there's a lot of language happening between us, whether it's physical or actual verbal, but it's
Yeah.
really being in tune.
Yeah. And I think a big piece of that is that you are very intuitive, very intuitive. And I'd love to hear how that informs some of your work. I've had many experiences with you in sessions where things come to you, messages or things. And I think that that's a really unique aspect of the work that you do. And I'm not sure what I call it psychic. I'm not sure if you would, but that's what it feels like to me is that there's many gifts that you bring. And one of them is that piece of, you're able to channel in some ways. And I don't know if I'm using the right language, so I'll let you speak on that too.
You're doing very well. I have my own blocks, will you say, on the word psychic.
Mhm.
So, not to put any negative spin on it, but I feel more comfortable with the word intuitive.
Mhm. Yep.
And I believe I've been intuitive my whole life, but just never recognized it or developed it till
Yeah.
later on in life. So there are different abilities, being able to see, hear, sense, feel. So I would say my greatest gift is knowing. I just know things and I don't know how I know them. And
Mm.
sometimes, you and I have had this discussion where I feel like, did I just make that up or did I
Mm.
really know that? But it turns out I didn't know that.
Mhm.
How? I don't know. And sensing is my next greatest. I don't know which one's first, but anyway, they're probably very comparable to one another. But I sense things in my body. And when I first did this work, I thought it was me. But what I was picking up on is other people's stuff or the group
Mhm.
consciousness stuff or what was going on in the universe. And so I had to do a lot of work there to release that stuff and know what's mine and what's the client's or other people's.
Mm.
So before I actually started using these gifts, I thought I was paranoid. I
Mm.
would think of something and then it would happen. And it was a lot and the stuff that was happening wasn't necessarily good.
Mm.
So they were like warnings. And I remember sitting in a parking lot one day, as vivid as if it happened yesterday. And I said to myself, that's it. I'm going to stop, turn my head, turn it off so that I don't think of these things so that they don't happen. But
Mhm.
I didn't know I was turning off my intuition. I thought I was turning off I really thought I was paranoid
Mm.
because it's like, geez, like I think of something, it happens, and that was it. I turned it off. So it
Mm.
took me, like fast forward many years, probably a decade, before I actually realized that it wasn't me being paranoid. It was actually intuitive messages
Yeah. Yeah.
coming through. So I spent many years trying to get that gift back because I intentionally turned it off.
Mm.
I was also had a very good imagination from a very young age. I spent a lot of time, even though I had siblings and my parents were always there, I spent a lot of time alone. I am a little bit of a loner. And on now looking back, and that was because I felt so much. It was too overwhelming. So at least if I was on my own, I just had to worry about my own stuff. I didn't have to worry about what was going on with this person or that person. And of course, you're so young that you don't have words to describe. Again, what is this happening? No one was able to tell me that this was just me as a very intuitive, sensing individual. So I kind of stumbled a lot through a lot of this to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say again, have a knowing and I sense things. I just know something's going to happen, then it happens.
Yeah. And how do you, I'm curious how, like you mentioned, sometimes it would be not so great things that you would think of and then they would happen. So, how, now that you've maybe spent more time and have more experience with these gifts, how do you find that you like channel it for good, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Well, that's a very good question, actually. Well, it's interesting because now I'm given information and however way I perceive it, it's not so much in a negative sense. It's put in a different way. It's put into a way of how can it help the client. And it might even be some sensitive information, but the information is delivered, right? Is downloaded and delivered in a way that's supportive to the client versus just getting all this raw information. And maybe I wasn't tuned also back then. I may not have been tuned to the purest source. Could have been some other interference coming in,
Okay.
right? But I think if you're getting information that doesn't sound like it's coming from a place of love, because you can still have information that's negative,
Yeah.
but still come up from a place of love. So I always put it from a place of being supportive and loved and being unconditional, no matter what the information is. Because I don't believe that we are given information unless we're ready to hear it.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. And I feel like, again, as someone that's benefited so much from all of your talents and skills, I think on the receiving end, it often feels like you can see clearly through a lot, and you're able to almost take what someone is explaining verbally and almost see what it is in their body and make connections that are hard to articulate verbally. It feels like you're like a master connector, and you can see through a lot of the barriers and the layers to put a lot of the pieces together. And also in a big picture way of not just what the experience is now, but you're able to see even often the roots of a lot of these things as well. It's very hard for me to articulate because so much of it is nonverbal, and it's just the experience that you're
Yeah.
having in your body. It's fascinating. So
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to agree as well. I'm really good at picking up patterns.
Yes. Yes, you are. Yeah.
It's just a natural gift that I have. So as a person is speaking, that's why sometimes we do a lot of talking, but as you're talking, I'm also a harmonizer. So as you're talking, I'm working my energy without even you realizing.
Yeah.
But I see patterns in the body. When I see, I sense, so you could be talking about a particular thing and I will see what's going on. Again, let me correct myself, sense what's going on in the body. So I just follow that.
Mm. Yeah.
And then you keep talking and so we're bringing awareness into that spot and that helps it like lighten it up,
Mm.
be less dense so that we can get underneath it to
Yeah.
see what is the root. And sometimes we don't get to that root right away. And that's okay because that just means you're not, the client's not ready to go there yet. I'll give you an example. I have a client that's been coming to me once a month for the last 2 years. And I'm sharing with you because she's given me permission. She has had a real traumatic or trauma at a very young age. So I would say it was probably about 7 years old. And she's now, I think, 60. And she spent her whole life running away from this or hiding this or living from this trauma spout. space, really. And there are a lot of stuff that's coming up now. And one would say, well, why didn't you bring it up 2 years ago?
Mm,
She wasn't ready. She would have shut that door so quick, and I would have never seen her again. So some stuff came up this last past session that I just saw. Something just lit up on her.
mm,
And we talked about some pretty deep stuff. And when you don't understand why a particular thing happened and why a parent wasn't there to protect you, and then what a sibling role was that you felt that perhaps you weren't supported by that sibling, then when you point out some stuff that possibly what that parent could have been going through and that sibling's perspective, all of a sudden it's like, wow,
mm,
I kept thinking that person wasn't there to support me, but really they were coming from their own perspective and how they were perceiving whatever was going
mm,
around them. And they had to protect themselves. They had a choice to either protect this person who is being hurt by one of the parents or choosing to appease the parent to be protected. But had I said that 2 years ago, she would have never come back. She wasn't in a position to hear that,
mhm,
to receive that. She actually cried and she was like, I can't believe that this made so much sense. So,
mm,
Jack, because you're ready to receive it, it makes sense. It didn't. I said to her, had we said this a year ago or 2 years ago, she goes, you're right. I
mhm.
would have, I would have thought you were nuts. That
Yeah,
was her exact words. So you have to follow it. You have to be patient with it. You can't force it to
yeah.
be any quicker than it needs to be. When you are ready, that door will open and that
Mm,
healing will occur.
mm, yeah. And even too, how much safety needs to be in that relationship between the two of you to be
Yeah.
able to excavate these things, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Very
right.
well
Like,
said, Tara.
yeah, that takes a lot of safety in that relationship. It takes a lot of courage on both ends,
Yeah.
right?
And trust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
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 But she was committed to her work
Hmm.
and she's a completely different person, a changed person for the
Yeah.
better, you know?
Wow.
And even though she's older, but she's like, now I get to live my life. I'm
Yeah.
not going to live it based on that trauma that happened to me. I no
Mhm.
longer relate to that trauma.
Yeah.
I am now this person.
Yeah, wow. That makes me feel emotional even hearing
Yeah.
it. You know, it's like what's really possible when people are willing and curious about seeing something differently and willing to sit in the discomfort, right? And I think, and this is something I wanted to ask about as well is, and we see this in so many ways, right? Of course, you see this, I see this in my work as well, is that healing is messy, right? It's not linear. It's not, often you don't immediately get healed, right? Like it's complicated, it's messy, it requires bravery, it requires trust, and it's hard work. It's often hard work
Hmm.
to allow those feelings to come up and to trust that you can hold them and you can carry them and it won't break you because a lot of this comes from numbing, right?
Yeah.
And survival.
It's
So,
survival.
yeah, and so when we allow ourselves to feel, I think for a lot of people, that feels scary. That feels so scary to allow that feeling to actually come up, but that's where the healing is, right? Something Michelle has said on the podcast before is the more you feel, the better you feel.
Mm,
Right. And I think
yeah.
it's so true. And it is also such hard work. And I'd love to know from your perspective too, how would you say that your clients know that they're healing, knowing that it is messy and nonlinear and, you know, it's a process, but what are some of those signs that they can look for to know that things are shifting?
Are you feeling burnt out and exhausted? See you in someone who has recovered from a few burnouts herself. And through sitting in circles with women over the last 8 years, I have some perspectives as to what personality traits and habits and thinking traps perpetuate and put us at higher risk of developing and ending up in burnout. So if you want to find out your burnout archetype quiz, are you a CEO? Are you a saboteur, a martyr, a rescuer, or a zombie? Then head over to the show notes, click the free quiz, and find out what might be getting in your way. Also, learn strategies and things to consider to help you reclaim your energy and recover from burnout so that you can be blissed out in the world and doing things that make you happy. Enjoy.
Well, they're more, one I hear often is more at peace, right?
Mm,
So there's just this inner peace. They maybe, other feedback I get is not as many reactions,
mm,
or they stop before they respond.
mm,
Some are less pain, or pain has gone away. Others, it's, I haven't done this particular thing that I love to do since I was a child. And now, they're bringing it back into their life again. Some, are looking for their soul partner
mm,
and have spent years going down the wrong path and, now feel more confident, or their heart is open now to let someone in. So it's really a wide range of things,
mhm.
but usually they feel it first.
Yeah,
And that's because we've done work to connect back to the body, right? To get out of that head of ours
yeah.
and drop down to the body. A lot of people, too, that I work with, when you ask them where do they feel it, very few. I do have one that feels it in the head,
Mm,
but usually it's below the head that they're feeling something.
yeah.
You know, and other times, too, I just wanted to bring the point that we think that we have to stay in that feeling of discomfort. But really, what we're doing is, okay, I feel that feeling. My God, it's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable. And then it dissipates. But we don't even allow it to come up.
Yeah.
We have that little tinge and we throw, we shove it back down again.
Mhm.
But if we just stick with it, like as if it was our child
Mhm.
or our pet, and what do? You just stay with them, you comfort them. Well, what if we did that to ourselves too?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. It's something that I talk about often with kids is and the ways that we numb, especially with social media and how readily accessible it is at all times. And the way that I sometimes explain it is every emotion is like a wave, right? It builds, it hits a peak, and then the wave will break and you will get
Yes.
better and you'll feel better. But we are all so accustomed to numbing from
Yep.
such an early age, right? And I
Yep.
think too, I think in a lot of ways, this time that we're living in now is almost the first time where it's okay to talk about feelings and to actually allow them to come up, right? I think in previous generations, it was scary to
Hmm.
feel,
We
right?
didn't
And
talk about it.
didn't talk about it, didn't talk about it. And I think, that's been such an awakening, I think, for a lot of people now is we were all taught to numb, right? And then again, our parents were doing the best that they could with the tools that they had and what they learned from their own upbringing, right? These are cycles. And to now be in a time where we get to choose how this experience goes and we get to heal from so much. Like it's just I'm such a fan of your work. Like I tell everyone because there's so much healing that gets to happen if we're brave enough to allow it.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be from 0 to 100.
Hmm.
What if even 5%
Yeah.
today? Oh,
Yeah.
let's say I'm hyper vigilant, which I am. And just for today, what can I do? Just 5% less of that and start there. Or even the feeling of emotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm going to reach for that cookie, even though I've eaten and I'm completely content, but I want to reach out for that cookie. Stop and say, what am I really want?
Yeah.
It's not that cookie. What's underneath that want?
Mm-hmm.
Feeling lonely. I need a hug. I'm coming down from the day. I'm still very stressed. How do I de-stress? How do I decompress? Because I've been holding it in the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
So now how do I decompress? Well, that friggin' cookie does a good job, but it's not healthy for me. Yeah, sure, if you have the occasional cookie, but if it's a pattern that keeps on happening, and then usually if you're stuck in that cycle, it's not just that cookie you're looking for, it's the next thing. Is it a piece of chocolate? Is it the ice cream? Is it bread? So it's really stopping and saying, what do I really need? And is it a hug? So give yourself a hug, or maybe phone a friend right? Is it love? Well, you can definitely love yourself, but what ways can I show myself that I love myself?
Mhm.
You know? Or, for those who are very hypervigilant all the time,
Mhm.
it's like, how can I? Because people who are hypervigilant have a hard time relaxing. You
Mhm.
can't relax. It wasn't safe to relax because what would happen? So allowing yourself, okay, maybe a whole day, me giving permission to myself to relax, such like on a weekend that you're not working, is so difficult.
Mhm.
Okay, can I just do it for an hour? Also, let's say you're successful with that. The next time, can I do it for longer?
Mhm.
Build yourself up to a day or two or whatever it is. How many of us don't give ourselves permission or don't feel safe to completely relax? Give ourselves permission to relax. That's a big one.
Yeah.
And we could be looking for the fix, whether it's food, whether it's checking emails or going on that social media, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. All the ways that we numb and
There's so
avoid.
many.
Yeah, there's so many, and I think such a big piece of it, and when you start doing this work too, is realizing that a feeling isn't it won't kill you, right? Like the
Mhm.
feeling,
Yet it feels like it
it
will. It's
will,
so,
yeah.
so huge. It's bigger than
So
you.
exactly, especially at the beginning, right? When you actually don't really have evidence that it won't kill you,
Mm,
right? It's
mm.
scary. It's very scary
It's
to
very
dive into that.
scary, and that anticipation of it too makes it bigger than it really is. Yeah, it's like, or if you've already experienced once and it's going to happen again,
Mhm.
that's certain instance.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, I could, it was so unbearable the first time. How am I going to handle it now? So we
Mhm.
shut down.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, a big one is relationships and love. When you've gotten your heart broken, what
Mm.
happens to most people?
Mhm.
They shut it down. They have a heart wall. They don't know why they can't find the ideal partner. Meanwhile, they're not open to it. They don't even
Right.
realize they're not open to it.
Yeah. 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 And it requires so much bravery to look at those things
Mm-hmm.
and to admit maybe I'm part of this dynamic in some ways,
Exactly.
right?
You
And
know,
taking responsibility.
right. Because really, you have control for your own actions,
Yeah.
right? Over your own destiny. And it's always looking back at what was my part in this?
Yeah.
Instead of always looking outward, this happened to me. They did this to me.
Mhm.
Okay, but what is it stirring up in me?
Mhm.
Something is getting stirred up so that we can look at it and finally heal it and move on
Yeah.
to better things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And even remembering too, what happened to you isn't your fault, right? But healing is your responsibility.
Yeah.
That's up to you, and we can't change what happened, we can't change the past, but we can change how we relate to it. We can change how it impacts us on a day-to-day basis. We don't need to stay so emotionally tethered to those
Yes.
situations.
Yes.
And I think so often there's such a negative, let's say with something traumatic that happened, we're numbing it and so we're avoiding it, but it actually keeps us stuck in that situation rather than actually feeling what we need to feel and learning to cope and create a different relationship with that person or that thing or whatever it is, right? We
Yeah.
think that by suppressing it, we're detached from it, but we actually stay attached to it.
It stays underneath the surface, brewing, just
Mhm. Mhm.
waiting for someone to set it off or something to set it off,
Mhm.
right? But it's still there. It's brewing.
Mhm.
I often like to compare it to a pressure cooker,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And eventually, one day,
Yeah, good visual. Yeah.
right? But it's still brewing there. It hasn't gone. And sometimes you react a certain ways. And when you look back, you think, why did I react that way? Like there's something there to look at.
Yeah.
It's not always the other person. It's not always the other thing that happened to us. Okay, this happened to me. So what am I getting from it? What is
Mhm.
this showing me? Like,
Yeah.
even if, I had an example happen to me last week where someone set me off
Mhm.
and I was thinking, but that person didn't even really do anything.
Mhm.
So what's going on there? Right. So I looked into myself. Well, that person makes me feel a certain way. Does that person make you feel a certain way? Or are you already feeling that way, but maybe they highlight it, or
Yeah.
maybe they're mirroring back to you what you don't like about yourself?
Mm,
So until I really had a deep look, then I was like, this is not even that person at all. It was me. It was trying to show me something that I wasn't looking at, that I
mm,
needed to work on.
yeah.
Is it perfect? No, but at least I'm working on it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We're always a work in progress. Always, always. Well, this was wonderful. I could talk to you all day. And luckily, I get to talk to you all day. But I think, yeah, I can't speak highly enough about your work and all of the positive benefits that I've reaped from all of our time together, all of our sessions together. I think that you are a wonderful, magical human. And I feel so, so lucky to get to work with you. And I hope that this episode has really showed people a little bit more about what you do and how you help. And the invitation, if it feels right for people listening, is to book a session with you and to get to benefit from a lot of the things that we talked about today. So we will have the links in the show notes to get in touch with Emily and to book a session with her. And Emily, thank you for coming on the podcast. This was such a wonderful hour together.
Thank you, Tara. It was wonderful. Thank you for
Well, I'm
holding
glad.
this beautiful space for us.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, stay wild.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Wild Medicine. I am so grateful to have you here, and I hope you're feeling inspired and empowered. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating. It helps us reach more incredible women just like you. And before you go, quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. Please consult with your healthcare provider for personalized advice and care. And if you're ready to take inspired action and dive deeper into your own health journey, please visit us at poppyclinic.com. Let's rewild and reset your health together.